Horrible beyond conception was the change which had taken place in my best friend, Crawford Tillinghast. I had not seen him since that day, 2 months and a half before, when he told me toward what goal his physical and metaphysical researches were leading, when he had answered my odd and almost frightened remonstrances by driving me from his laboratory and his house in a burst of fanatical rage. I had known that he now remained mostly shut in the attic laboratory with that accursed electrical machine, eating little and excluding even the servants, but I had not thought that a brief period of 10 weeks could so alter and disfigure any human creature. Woo! Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and gender non-conforming people. My name is Andrew Carr, and welcome back from a long 3-week hiatus. Welcome back to the Carr-Quest of H.P. Lovecraft. Before we get started, I would just like to apologize for my sudden sort of disappearance. I swear nothing Lovecraftian got me. But I was caught up in CU Denver film stuff, film shoots mostly. All throughout the month of October, actually. So that's why this video is coming a few weeks late. But don't worry, it's here now, so I don't think there should be any sort of hiatus like that anyway. But I'll let you know if there is next time. Until then, though, today we will be talking about the thing that I said I would do 3 weeks ago, or 3 weeks or so ago. And today I will be doing that very thing. I will be covering the short story and the movie version of From Beyond. So, sorry about that, family stuff. Anyway, back to From Beyond. So, this video is going to be very interesting for me, because not only is it a review of the short story, it's also a review of the movie. Now, I should also specify, honesty propels me to tell you that I did not watch this exact copy. Well, I didn't watch From Beyond through this 4K Ultra Blu-ray. Complicated PS3 Roku stuff withheld me from doing it. But I was able to watch it through a streaming service, Tubi. So yeah, I liked the movie. I guess because I saw the movie first, I'll talk about actually. I feel like to get a better understanding of the movie, I have to talk about the short story first. So let's actually talk about the short story first. So the short story is about the narrator who is friends with a man named Crawford Tillinghast. And Crawford Tillinghast has made an incredible discovery. You see, beyond our 5 senses, are other senses which can perceive beings in the, like, through the air, right? Like, if you can access. So he's developed a machine that will sort of stimulate, like, glands in the brain to allow you to see beyond physical reality, basically. It awakens senses that allows you to perceive beings through the air that we don't normally see. And the narrator is at first repulsed by this, and then Crawford Tillinghast throws him out of his house, and then 10 weeks later, Crawford Tillinghast invites him to his house again, and pretty much, well, I won't spoil it here. I like the story. I feel like it could have gone into a bit more detail, but at the same time, I think the fact that it is from the main character's perspective So when the 10, well, then again, later in the story it says that one of the servants was telling our narrator about what was going on with Crawford. So maybe if we'd sort of gotten a bit more of of the main character, and the servants sort of explaining things to him, maybe through like telegram or something, maybe it could have worked. Well, it does work. Don't get me wrong, it does work. I also really like the ending. I like the little details at the end, which again I won't spoil. But I don't know. For me, I'm actually more thinking about the short story than I'm thinking about more about the film rather than the short story. But I like the short story. I think it gives the basic information of the story. Well, yeah, the story conveys like the information. And then it just kind of, how do I describe it? It's a decent story. It gives the information. It has a nice sort of brisk pace, which you don't always get in Lovecraft because of his vocabulary choices sometimes. But no, I think it's a pretty good story. Otherwise, I could see why they made a movie of it. But I'll be honest, I kind of want to just talk about this movie. But before we get to the movie, we have to talk more about the short story. I do like that Crawford. I do like that the perspectives from the movie and. Actually, screw it. Let's talk about the movie now. Sorry about that. So the movie was directed by Stuart Gordon, who, if that name sounds familiar, is the director of the film Reanimator. I'll be honest, I think I might like Reanimator a bit more than this movie, but we'll get there. When we cover Herbert West Reanimator, the short story, I'll compare and contrast Reanimator and Herbert West Reanimator, the story. I do like some of the directions it takes. The story's pretty much the same as the short story. It just kind of goes into a lot more detail. For one thing, in the short story, Crawford Tillinghast is the one who sort of makes the experiment and is the one who sees things from beyond, as it were. In the movie, though, Crawford Tillinghast is the assistant to another scientist named Edward Pretorius, who has developed the machine that allows you to see the other beings from the other realities and sees the other things that our typical five senses don't let us. There's definitely a lot more characters in this movie than there are in the short story. The short story, I think, only really has the servants, Crawford, and the main character, and maybe the doctor at the end. Not the doctor from Doctor Who, though I don't know how he would have helped in this situation. But, yeah, in this one, it's this psychiatrist? Dr. Catherine McMichaels, who takes interest in Crawford. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. More family stuff because it is getting late. But as I was saying, so in this movie, the difference was that Crawford Tillinghast, we went over that. That Crawford ends up in the care of Dr. Catherine McMichaels, and Catherine McMichaels sort of takes interest in the experiment that Edward Pretorius was doing and that Crawford was assisting with. Crawford being played by good old Jeffrey Combs, who plays it up, hams it up as he does. I do wonder though, has Jeffrey Combs ever played Renfield in a Dracula movie? Because I feel like he'd be a really good Renfield. But yeah, and one of the things I actually think is interesting is that both the story and the movie, they both have the purple light, which is, I like how a horror friend of mine, Zack Beins, who does the Talkin Troma podcast, shameless plug, when I got this copy of the movie at the Colorado Festival of Horror, he described it to me as Reanimator, but purple instead of green, because in Reanimator it's the green serum. In this, it's a purple light that shines from the electrical machine, which is directly from the short story. Although I will say the short story straight up says what the purple light is. Crawford says that it's ultraviolet light that through the senses that you can, through the machine sort of fiddling with our senses, that you can see it, that the main character can see it. In here, I think it's also ultraviolet light, or it's the the implication that it's ultraviolet light. Yeah, so when it comes to the movie, it's really interesting because it's a very weird movie. It's body horror. It's, as you can see from the cover here, because there's that massive of human, and there's that, and all this sort of stuff. This is a very, very kooky movie. I do want. Again, sorry about that. There was a big conflict going on involving a pillowcase outside. Doesn't matter. So yeah, so to just kind of wrap this up, this is a weird movie, and this is also just a general just weird story. Yeah, it's just kinda, it's all just really, really weird. I'm not quite sure how to really describe it, especially the movie. The story I think is pretty good too. I'm not quite sure. I mean I think that it is a good story. I'm not sure if it's one of Lovecraft's absolute bests, but I do think that it is definitely a story that is worth reading. And I think that this movie is also really good. It's pretty good. There are some things in it that are a bit kinda. There are things that I'm not sure if if you're supposed to think about watching the movie, that I did kind of think about, like a continuity wise and stuff. Excuse me. Yeah. So this is a pretty good movie. I get the feeling though that I might like Reanimator a little bit more than it, but otherwise I think this is a pretty good adaptation of the story. It gets the basics down. It sort of turns Crawford Tillinghast into the main character as opposed to kind of the antagonist, which I think was an interesting take, and I think it is. I think it helps the story a little bit. The other characters are pretty alright. The special effects do. A lot of them do, not all of them do, but quite a lot of, especially whenever there's any sort of like body horror effects that are kind of like The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. So if you've seen Reanimator, you probably have seen this, but if you haven't seen this, I will warn, there is a lot of body horror, and there is some pretty gross stuff in it. There's some nudity. It's just really generally weird. You're in for some generally weird and kooky stuff when you watch Stuart Gordon's H.P. Lovecraft's From Beyond. I will be checking out Reanimator when we get to Herbert West Reanimator. But yeah, so the movie's good. The short story is good. I'd probably give it maybe a high B. So yeah, yeah, that's about it, really. Sorry there were so many sort of jump cuts in this video, but again, you know, life happens, I guess. So, with that being said, our next story, and speaking of which, I might do something with because I missed quite a few stories, so I might just sort of put them out in, I'll figure out a plan on how to get the other episodes out to sort of catch up. Because the stories I've missed so far, was From Beyond, Nyarlathotep, The Nameless City, and the one after that was The Other Gods. So, Nyarlathotep's pretty short. The Nameless City is a bit lengthier, and The Other Gods is also pretty short too. So I'll find a way. But our next story is Nyarlathotep. So again, I'll find a way to get the other episodes out. So so don't y'all worry about that. But until then, ladies and gentlemen and gender non-conforming people, this has been the Carr-Quest of H.P. Lovecraft. I have been your host, Andrew Carr, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye now.